Melly, and I'm a member of the athletic communications team here in the CSU Bakersfield Athletics Department. Tonight, I will be serving as the MC for our Q&A session with Director of Swimming, Chris Hansen. Before we get any further, on behalf of the entire Roadrunner family, I want to say a huge thank you to Primetime Barbecue for supporting us in this event. We hope that all of you had a chance to go out and pick up some food from Primetime, which is one of our favorite local restaurants, and they agreed to donate a portion of their sales from tonight's event to the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund. You can follow Primetime Barbecue on Instagram, but let me warn you, my mouth was drooling when I got done scrolling through their posts. The burgers, the steaks, the sausages, the chicken, all of it just looks so amazing, as you can see on the screen right now. Right now, Primetime has a family pack deal, which feeds 4 to 6 people for just $45. You get tri-tip, chicken, chili beans, potato salad, bread, barbecue sauce, and all the other yummy fixings. These coaches' talks have been going so well and have served a dual purpose, helping out our local economy while also supporting the lives of our Roadrunner student athletes. Our reports have shown that these events have helped generate nearly $30,000 in sales for our restaurant partners during these tough times. And a portion of that has come back to CSB Scholar athletes. Once again, thank you so much to Primetime Barbecue for helping us provide scholarships for our amazing Roadrunners. We're so thankful to have everyone with us tonight, and we've got a great big crowd. Once again, it looks like we are joined by CSU Bakersfield's very own president, Dr. Lynette Zalesny. Good evening, Dr. Zalesny. How are you doing tonight?
Well, thank you so much, Isaac. I'm absolutely honored to be here, and it's an absolute joy to be with Coach Chris. And my goodness, I am having the highlight of my day seeing our scholar athletes. It's a record number of scholar athletes. I want you to know how much you're always in my heart. I love the spirit of the swim and dive team, and I can't thank you enough for being so resilient during this time. And I am so thankful also to our sponsors for the Coaches Talk. This has been such a fun event for us. So on behalf of all of our runner scholar athletes and athletics, I am just so indebted to our coaches for all of your leadership and your service to CSUB. I want to thank especially our amazing athletic director, and just so delighted to hear another inspiring Coaches Talk tonight. Thank you, Coach Chris.
Thank you, Dr. Zalesny. We appreciate you being here as always. And like we were saying before, it looks like we have a big crowd gathered tonight from our homes to yours, including our athletics director, Dr. Ziggy Siegfried, who is a big part of the cog in the wheel of the CSB athletics. But I know he wants the focus to be on our longest tenured coach, Director of Swimming, Chris Hansen. So we'll be getting to him in just a moment. But before we do that, let me tell you a couple things to help tonight's conversation be ideal for you. First off, after we've talked with Coach Hansen for a little while, we will then move into a Q&A session where our viewers will be able to ask questions. Start thinking of a question you might want to ask now, and when you think of it, send it to me, Isaac Camelli, in the chat messaging system here on Zoom. To find that, locate and click on the chat icon, make sure the to section says my name, type in your question, and hit send. When we get to that portion of our evening, I'll go through some of the viewer questions, ask them to coach, and we may even open up for viewers to question live if we have time. We'll see. The last bit of housekeeping I have is a recommendation. If you have your Zoom meeting in gallery view, you might want to switch over to speaker view. We recommend this as it will give you the best viewing experience, but it's up to you whether or not you want to roam around and peek on your neighbor or see what they're up to. All right, now that we have all the logistics squared away, it's time to get to the main event. In his 12th season at CSUB and his 9th season as the director of both the men's and women's swimming and diving programs, Chris Hansen has guided Roadrunner swimmers to 28 individual championships and 14 relay titles. In 2020 alone, he coached sophomore Autumn DRC and freshman Kayla Popham to Western Athletic Conference Swimmer and Freshman of the Year accolades, respectively. Under Coach Hansen, several student athletes have also gone on to represent CSU Bakersfield at both national qualifiers and in international competition. I could list your accolades for minutes, Chris, so I'll just keep it short and say, welcome to tonight's Coaches Takeout Talk.
Thank you for having me. I got my prime cut ribs in the oven. I'm glad you can't smell them when you're all been knocking on my door, but I'm excited to be here, and thank you for everyone for coming on.
Awesome. And I see you got your primetime hat in the back too.
I'm a fan. I actually go quite a bit.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, I don't blame you because I know how great the food is. So, Coach, we'll jump right into our questions, and we'll get to our viewer questions soon. So, if you have questions, send them to me in the chat. But, Coach, the first question that I have for you is looking ahead to next season. Most of your CSUB counterparts are preparing for a new chapter in the Big West Conference, but your swimming and diving team is going to be returning to competition in a familiar area with the Mountain Pacific Sports Federation, more commonly known as the MPSF. What are the challenges your teams face as you transition back into that league?
It's something that Ziggy and I talked quite a bit about, and we both thought it would be a great move to leave the WAC and go to the Mountain Pacific. Most of the teams in the Mountain Pacific are Big West schools, minus BYU, Pacific, and one of the San Diego schools. So it's really hopefully opening the door to the potential of swimming and diving heading back into the Big West. Hawaii and BYU and UC Santa Barbara are powerhouses, but we haven't seen my team back down to a powerhouse in a long time, so I'm not too worried about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it would be really cool if, that could eventually become a sport the Big West adds on. So we'll just have to see what happens there. But back to the MPSF, your first foray into that league was incredibly successful, highlighted by a 2011 men's conference championship. How, in that time, how has the league grown and changed? And what are your expectations heading into this next season for both of your teams?
God, I remember that weekend well, and I'm sure there's some alumni on here that were part of that team. That was a special win because it was the first Division I championship after our whole school went Division I. Matter of fact, it was the first year. And I don't want to take away from what wrestling did prior to that because they were Division I before us, but and they won a lot of championships. But it was special to be the first team to win when all eyes were on what we were going to be as a full Division I program. The conference has totally changed. There's a lot more teams in it. It's a lot tougher. It's going to be a tougher conference than the WAC, but again, we don't really step down to too many battles. But we're not going to finish in the top half, I don't think, in the beginning, but we're definitely going to climb the ladder to get there. Hawaii and BYU are going to be tough.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're looking forward to see how you're able to stack up even against some really powerful swimming schools. But now let's shift focus onto this most previous season, your final season in the WAC. Both of your teams completed their seasons with winning dual meet records for the regular season. How would you assess the momentum within your program right now?
Well, right now we just want to get in the water. We certainly did have a great dual meet season. I mean, we started off right from the beginning of the year talking about having a winning dual meet season, getting into the WAC championships and finishing off strong. I think all sports right now and all universities are probably just anxious to start preparing for the next season. Well, everything's still a little unknown, but what a fun season. I mean, it's not bad when both, coaching both the men and women. Sometimes the women win, sometimes the men win. It was special, especially with this great senior class that we had to finish off with both seasons, both sexes winning.
Yeah. And I've got a question for you about the senior class, but we'll come back to that a little bit later. So before we get to that, let's talk about the momentum that you gained from regular season and carrying into the WAC championship meet, where both of your teams scored extremely well alongside some particularly elite individual efforts. But the story of the WAC championship meet turned out to be the obstacles that you faced, just as a team simply getting to the pool and competing. Not everybody might be aware. So could you kind of recount the issues that your team and the WAC in general experienced there in Houston this year?
I'm trying not to relive it, but I will tell. In swimming, we train all year long, and there's for different peaks, and we rest and we shave, and when you get to a conference championship, you have a prelims and a finals. You swim in the morning, and then the top 16 will come back at night. So, we've gotten ourselves in the position where we could have swimmers coast in the morning make top 16 and then try to make their NCAA cuts. We get there. I have a new trainer, a new sports supervisor, a new sports information director, and all we did is tell them how easy and smooth this thing will run because we've been there for years. We swim the first night very successfully. We swim prelims the next morning. We go back and rest, and then we get the news that there is a major water main break in the city of Houston. Now, no water in swimming definitely caused for a panic. We had to change everything that we knew. There wasn't going to be a prelims and finals. There was just going to be one day, one session a day, which for swimmers like Autumn and Chris and Michaela, it keeps them from having two chances to get to the NCAAs. Not to mention all the bus changes and meal changes. I mean, it was more difficult for the coaches probably behind the scene to figure out what we were going to do. I remember, and this is a testament to my team and my alumni, really. I remember, Autumn was supposed to swim the 100 fly the next day, and I had to come down and have a team meeting to say, we don't know if we're going to be able to finish the whole 4 days. We're definitely not going to have prelims and finals. And I remember getting in the elevator, going down to the lunch to tell everybody, and I must have looked a wreck because Noah Hickman walked in the elevator and looked at me and said, "Do you need a hug?" And as soon as that happened, I realized that I had to take off the coaches, the parent and the parent hat, and put the coach's hat on and make sure that they didn't see how it was affecting us. And the alumni, the amount of text messages we got from the alumni were insane. And my team rocked it out. I mean, I was shocked. I mean, it's a little sad still because people didn't get two chances to swim a race, but it was pretty amazing to see how they handled themselves. I don't think if you knew there was a problem going on, you wouldn't have known by looking at my team.
Yeah. Despite all that adversity, your teams combined for, I think, 23 all-conference finishes and 10 school records there in Houston. What does that say about your group of student athletes that they were able to rise to the occasion despite all the circumstances?
I think it has a testament to, I remember an alumni texting me and saying, "You've constantly told us that we can perform good in any situation. We swim outdoors a lot, so we have to swim in rain. We've swam in 30-degree weather, and sometimes when we go inside, we have a problem breathing. But we talk about all of that all year long, how these adversities are not going to keep you from performing at your best." And I think we knew that, and they knew that I was upset with just the situation. But my team comes together. What you see us do at basketball games and community service, that's who they are. They didn't train all year long and get on a flight to fly to Houston to have a water main break ruin their season. And my leadership's amazing. They weren't going to let it happen either.
Yeah. Coach, I have a few more questions for you. But before we get to that, I'll remind everybody that you can send a message to me in the chat with a question for Coach Hansen, and we'll be getting there. And we might even open up for one or two people to speak if they have any comments they'd like to share. So, Coach, the question I have for you next is more of on an individual level. You had several student athletes with great years in the pool, but arguably the most successful this year was Autumn DRC. For those who don't know, Autumn set a new CSUB D1 record with 26 individual wins, won 4 WAC championship titles, gold medals, including individual titles in the 100 fly, 200 fly, 200 IM, and on her way to being named the conference's swimmer of the year. As just a sophomore, by the way, how would you assess Autumn's progress this season, and what are your expectations for her final 2 seasons here in Bakersfield?
I mean, one of the obstacles I think the coaching staff had to get over while we were at WAC was not showing how bad we felt for this young lady, because she could have went on a lot further this year. Well, maybe she couldn't have because of COVID, but she could have made the NCAA championships, but she only had one chance to swim the event. And especially in her case, she usually gets faster the second time she swims it. But, Autumn's a unique swimmer that's been around us. She comes on the pool deck every day, and she's this quirky, fun-loving, laughing, wanting to have fun athlete. But then when she gets in the water, she kind of turns into a beast, and she wants to win. And I think the combination of her figuring out how to have fun, but still wanting to accomplish her dreams is what's making her successful. She doesn't look to be as stressed when she gets on the block, but I wouldn't want to swim next to her.
Yeah, definitely. Me neither, to be honest with you. And Autumn led all of the swimmers at the WAC championship in points scored, but right behind her was teammate and freshman Michaela Popham, who captured league titles in the 200 free and 500 free before helping Autumn and a couple other teammates win the 400 free relay. And she ended up being named the WAC's Freshman of the Year. So how could you assess Michaela's season, and especially this early in her career, where do you see her ceiling, her threshold?
I mean, I think that was a special moment for us too, it being our last WAC. Autumn was the high point scorer and Michaela was second. And then we walked off with the swimmer and the freshman swimmer of the year. Michaela had a little bit more of an uphill battle because she's from Australia. And United States is the only country that swims yards, which is what you see our pool look like when we're swimming a competition. So a lot of times when you get Europeans or Australians into the pool, they have to change everything they know when it comes to turns and stroke counts. She got it a little quicker than most have in the past, but I'm not taking away from what she did. She had an amazing year this year. She's way faster than she was. And I think after this freshman hump, she's gonna do something really, really special. And in the 100 free where she went 49, we've only had two girls in the history of our program, Lonnie Burton and Paula Hernandez, who have done that. And they both did it their last year. And she did it her freshman year. So I suspect a few more records, and I suspect that she'll be joining Autumn on a few more trips that are a little bit more special than going to USC.
Yeah, definitely. It's been exciting to see her for their first season. It'll be exciting to see where she goes next year as well. And you mentioned Lonnie Burton, who's one of the great D2 swimmers and all-time swimmers in CSUB history. If our viewers haven't seen it yet, Dan Sperl sat down to have a conversation with her recently. It's on our YouTube channel, CSUB Athletics. Really insightful just to see how she transitioned from going to the University of California, Berkeley, ending up at CSUB, and where she is now. So check that out. Coach, the next question, and we'll be getting to those viewer questions here in just a minute, is things didn't really get any easier right after WAC championships. The following week, COVID-19 ended your season abruptly in the middle of the National Invitational Championship. Obviously, this pandemic has had a huge effect on collegiate athletic programs, but I want to ask you specifically, how has it affected your athletes who were preparing to compete on national and international stages at the time?
Well, it was difficult. I mean, Chris Rojic just got off of breaking 6 school records, and along with Autumn and Michaela, we brought our biggest group there, and we thought it was going to be a second chance from what we weren't able to do at the WAC. So we got on a plane and flew to Cleveland, and we swam one session, and they canceled it for COVID, and we had to turn around and get on an airplane and fly back. Pretty heartbreaking. When we get into, using Chris as an example, coming off of World Championships this summer, we made a plan. So you make a plan on what you're going to do for these kids, and Chris is close to going to the Olympics. So we got through the WAC. It's heartbreaking. we know it's not our fault, and they know it's not our fault, but you don't wake up as a coach feeling great every day knowing that you can't help them at the moment reach their dreams. So we're sort of just praying that, we get back in soon and we could start training these kids for what they need. But it was a double whammy having a water main break and then thinking you're going to have a second chance, and then all of a sudden COVID hits. But it might sound odd. We actually had a really good time, even though we only swam one day. We did go out to, it was before all the social distancing stuff, so we did go out to dinner and kind of talk about, what's next. And, we flew home. I think we were there for 48 hours.
Yeah, I know when I was with the men's basketball team in Las Vegas when their tournament got canceled about the same time, and I just know it was really tough for everybody. So I feel for your team, and I'm looking forward to seeing them get back on track coming up here soon.
It's tough because coaches, we do this for a reason. We do this because we want to help our kids reach what their goals are, either athletically or academically. And even academically, it was a little strange towards when we got back. A lot of things were virtual, and we had to figure out how to help the kids. And we're not superheroes as coaches, but we have, we do this for a reason, and it hurts sometimes when you can't get out there and get them going. But they also know that once we're back, all our heads are going to be on tight, and we're going to do exactly what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely. So at this time, we will open up to our viewers who have been sending in their questions to me via the Zoom chat. There's still time if you want to get a few more in. We do have several, but I think we'll have enough time for all of them. And I actually got a special request from one of your alumni, Dane Olson, who was a member of the MPSF championship team. He would actually like to make a comment about that season.
Oh, no.
Chris, how's it going?
Oh.
So I just wanted to share a thing about CSUB swimming in our life. So I swam 2010 to 2014, and my wife Anna here swam from 2012 to 2014. And we met on that pool deck. So, swimming with Chris and all those experiences have a very special point in our life because, this is a product of that. This is our 4-month-old baby that Roadrunner blue and golden bleeds blue and gold, and we just wanted to share that this family that we've started here started on Chris's pool deck. It started because of what Chris builds in the team environment and how he incorporates men and women swimming as one team, which is not a thing that you see everywhere across the country. I just want to say thank you, Chris, because this is obviously the most important thing in my life, and thank you to everything that you did for us while we were there.
Then you should have named her Chris.
Very true.
Congrats, Dane, Anna. I hope.
Yeah.
Haven't been able to meet her in person yet.
Oh, we'll get you there. Don't worry.
All right. Thanks, guys, so much. We really appreciate you sharing that insight, and it's awesome to see what CSUB Athletics and Roadrunner Swimming has helped develop in your guys' life. You have a beautiful daughter, and it looks like a great marriage. We're really happy for you guys. Thanks for making that comment. So we will keep going with our viewer questions, and I'll just, for the sake of time, I'll ask most of these to you myself. Let me scroll up because we did get quite a few, so thank you for everyone for doing that. The first one comes from Colleen Tabor, who says, "Hi there, I'm a Roadrunner Aquatics parent. I would like to thank the coaching staff for their creativity and for engaging our kids daily. What is the update on returning to a pool, even if it isn't the CSUB pool?"
Let's see. So Ziggy and President Zanelli and I have communicated about this, and certainly we're doing everything we can to bring our CSUB athletes back on campus first. There's good talks, and you'll hear good news this week. Thank you for your comment. Roadrunner is a huge family of ours, and we'll get it back on track. But I trust that Ziggy and the board that's making these decisions are trying to do what's best and safe for everybody. So we'll all get back there. We just don't know when yet, but we might have another pool for the kids.
Gotcha. Thank you, Chris. And I do recognize that we got a similar question from Bill Mosley. So Bill, I hope that answers your question too. We won't double up on that one. But the next question I have is from one of your alumni, Delana Millibar. She asks, what is the most rewarding part of coaching high-level athletes?
Well, Delana's one of the ones who started that really for me. I mean, Michaela Page and Mitchell Huxhold and Peter Bartosiano, we would go to Olympic trials with those folks, and they started the international direction we were going. Delana's from Canada, so Delana and I traveled a lot together. We were in Victoria for nationals, we were in Toronto for her Olympic trials, and it's growing. You know, in the beginning, I'd be alone with Mitchell, or I'd be alone with Delana, you know, and now all of a sudden we're talking Autumn, Michaela, Chris, Ryan Breimer. You know, we're bringing 12 kids to US Open last year. And we couldn't have done that if it wasn't for Mitchell and Michaela and Delana. You know, they opened the door for us to be able to be successful at the international level as well as the national level, for sure. And we got to, you know, I love getting to have these kids. Chris, who's from Croatia, is getting to see part of the country here that he never thought he would get to see, you know, and that's also something that's special about this is, you know, you're here for academics and you're here to compete in your sport, but getting to show them parts of the world that they've never seen. I mean, Chris and I are actually supposed to be in Croatia right now training for his Olympic berth. That didn't happen, but I'm here in Bakersfield and I'm eating ribs, so I'm all right.
It could be worse, I guess.
I'd rather be in Croatia, Washington, getting ready to go to Tokyo, but we'll do that next year.
Yep, that sounds like a good plan, and we can't wait to see that happen. We'll all be rooting for Chris when he gets there. We know it's going to be great. The next question I see is somebody wants to know about academics. How did your teams do this year or this semester in the classroom?
Very well. It was actually our best men's overall GPA in a very long time. And Isaac, I don't want to be misquoted. I think one or two of them were ranked the highest GPA in sports. Ryan Breimer and Autumn D'Arcy will both be named college swimming academic all scholars for having their NCAA cut and having over a 3.6 GPA. And both teams will be recognized by college swimming for having over a 3.0.
That's awesome. It sounds like it was a great season in the pool and in the classroom, and we love to hear that. The next question I see is from Lauren Kaufman, who asks, how have you been training currently with no pool?
A lot of the kids are doing private lessons across Bakersfield, and they swim a lap or two, I guess, while they're doing private lessons. And Roadrunner Aquatics is doing a little bit of dry land, and the local kids that are registered with Roadrunner Aquatics are doing that. But we haven't really been doing what we need. But again, safety's got to come first at the moment. And this is a long break for swimmers. And, you know, I'll use Chris as an example again. After World Championships, he jumped in the water and didn't take a break to have a successful year this year. I don't think he's been out of the water this long in a very long time. But I do know that this team knows how to be good and knows what it takes to be good. And we're just going to have to rush that a little bit faster in the beginning when we get back in the water than usual.
Yeah, definitely. It'll just be a process, I'm sure. Speaking of processes, I'm sure this guy's got a process. But the next question is from Scott, and he asks, from a coach's perspective, what makes Michael Phelps so darn good at swimming?
I actually know the Phelps family fairly well. I coached Michael's sister, Whitney, and she just missed making the Olympics in 1992 by 2 people, I believe. His wingspan, he puts his arms up and he's about 7 foot that way. And he's got an interesting family. You know, there's two sisters and Michael. All 3 of them were at the world level. You know, something was in the water in Baltimore. That's all I can say, because that's where he was born.
Yeah, I imagine the water in Baltimore is pretty cold, so you probably want to get out of it pretty fast.
That's it. Maybe he just didn't want to go in the water there and went to the pool. But phenomenal family, great mother. she's done a really good job with that, with all those kids.
And back to the academic question, I did get some confirmation that the women's swimming and diving team earned the highest women's team GPA for this spring with a 3.65, which is amazing. And the men's team also earned the highest team cumulative GPA for this semester. So great work on all of that in the classroom. The next question we have comes from Becca Hernandez, who says, as an employee at CSUB Athletics, over my 8 seasons in CSUB Athletics family, I watched swim be such a supportive group of student athletes to all the other sports. Her question is, how did you help shape and cultivate that culture?
You know, it's a little dark, I guess, but when I first got here, I was the men's coach only. And there was an interesting time where sports were going to be dropped, and you know, it was just dark, and I decided to send the team to the games just to have fun because we wanted to get ready for our conference championship. And I thought if we got everybody in together and cheering, it would pump us up for what we had to come, and just make the situation we were under a little lighter. I remember Dennis Bilgem, and I can't remember, this is when Tim LaClose was the women's basketball coach. They had a postseason game that was hosted in the Ricardo, and I asked Dennis to make up a cheer. And that's where the old Bakersfield cheer started, that is still here today. But, you know, after Dennis, I mean, you've seen the guys, Dennis Cassidy, Dan Wickensheimer, Lovray, I mean, Justice Kramer. We had kids that, Jack Luna, I mean, we had some kids that actually put the rowdy costume on at games back in the day. It's fun. I mean, that's what college is about. And, you know, I always say you have to be able to be good at academics, you have to be good at athletics, and you have to have a college social life to be successful at all three. And I think supporting all the teams and having that college life at the games is part of that.
Yeah, and if people watching haven't been to any of our non-swimming events, you can see the swim and dive team in the stands at almost all of them, and they're probably easily the loudest group there. They bring so much school spirit and energy, and I know everybody around them is appreciative of it.
Try being on a bus with them for 5 hours.
No, thank you. I will pass on that. Appreciate the offer. Next question we have is from Justice Kramer, who you just mentioned. He says, I know it's difficult to see people graduate. I'm sure he means him.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the powerhouse of seniors coming up this next season? On the men's side, he mentions Chris, Ryan, Alex, and Noah specifically.
Trying not to think about it just yet. You know, every year, it's tough. You know, we say when we get, and then Justice has probably heard me say this, when I get to you on campus, the first thing we got to figure out is how we're going to get you off campus. And by that, I mean graduating. You know, it's always sad to see these kids go. And, you know, I'm going to use the women's class of Michaela Page and Paula Hernandez and Delana. They started what I call the power group of seniors that were all talented and all into it and all wanted to win. That's what this men's senior class looks like. There's a whole lot of points graduating. You know, we have a world championship qualifier. We have U.S. Open qualifiers. We have U.S. national qualifiers. We have U.S. Olympic trial qualifiers, all in that roster of senior men. So basically what I want is my assistants to hear this and start recruiting really, really, really hard because we're losing a real big crowd.
Well, it sounds like that's a problem they'll deal with now and we'll deal with next year. So we're excited to see the
Yeah.
following year. The next question is from one of your fellow coaches here at CSB, Sebastian Vecchio, for those who don't know, head coach of the women's soccer team. And he recognizes the fact that you are the longest tenured coach here. So he wants to know, what's the biggest change you have seen at CSB during your tenure?
Oh, wow. I got hired by Rudy. So we had one academic advisor. We had 2 trainers. I mean, there's been, you know, people ask me this question a lot, you know, and it's dramatically different. I mean, the Kegley Center, the training room, the amount of coaches we have, the amount of exec staff that we have, it hasn't always been easy because, we have had so many changes in the last 13 years and I feel like I'm constantly running to try to keep up to what the next change is. But for the student athletes, this place is night and day from what it used to be. They have so many resources to help them achieve their goals academically and athletically that we didn't have back then. When I got here, I was the academic advisor, the strength coach, the assistant coach. So we didn't have any of that back then. So we're in the right direction, and people say it takes some time, but it seems like it went really fast for me.
Yeah, you're coming up on your 13th year, and I'm sure it's flown by and all that time. Going back to probably one of those earlier years, I'm not exactly sure when this guy was here, but Dan Wickensheimer asks, you and your team have brought in a ton of fast swimmers in recent years, both on the men's and women's teams. What do you contribute your success in recruiting to?
The team, 100% the team. If you can't walk on a pool deck and click with this team, it's not the place for you. We're tough. People would call us tough because we are serious when we need to be serious, and we have fun when we want to have fun. But, what you see is what you get with this team. And they are together that much, and when you get to college, I'm assuming that's the atmosphere you want to be. And Dan Wickensheimer is part of the group that started that. Dan, came a little after I got here. And he was 100% part of the reason why this team culture is where it is today.
Definitely. There have been some great people coming through your program through the years, and you've mentioned a bunch of them already. And we were excited to see where some of them, like Dane, are now, and excited to see where others are going. And I did want to mention, I did think of something else when you were talking about the resources that have changed over the years and having more help along the way. That is a big part of the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund and what we're doing here tonight and raising money for it. Roadrunner Scholarship Funds help provide scholarships so our student athletes can come and benefit from those resources. So if any of you folks are interested in helping out with the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund, you can check out gorunners.com/give for more information. It looks like we have one more question here before I'll ask a few more questions and then be done. But this one comes from Audrey Willoughby, who asks, what do you hope your swimmers and divers take away from the swim and dive program?
Well, hopefully they look at what you've done. Not only was she a great swimmer, but she's off to a great career. And that's certainly what we want people to do. Swimming is a sport that most likely you're done when you're done with college. So I think a lot of what we teach is how to be successful in life, really. And Audrey is certainly a prime example of that. We want people to be successful. We want you to have a fun college experience, but we also want to get you ready to get out of here and be on your own. And that's become a giant part of what we do as coaches. I mean, the meetings I have, we used to bring people in and talk to them about how you're going to go 48 and 100 freestyle, which I love. But now Lauren Coughley sent me a message today talking about how she misses some of the conversations we used to have. And that meant a lot. I mean, that's what we do this for. We want to get to know them as a person, excuse me, and hopefully help them figure out what their future is going to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that what you're hinting at is what I've seen around your program is more of not so much a team feel, but a family feel, a place that you can come to and talk to like-minded individuals who love and respect you. And I think you've done a great job of building that kind of atmosphere.
Three of the four of my staff are all alumni. Fran, Melissa Gore, and Michelle Gardner all competed here, and they're all still here working. So I don't know if they love me, Bakersfield, or CSUB swimming, but I'm going to have to go with probably CSUB swimming.
Maybe. You probably should give yourself some credit too, though, Coach. So we'll keep moving. I've got a few more questions before we wrap up the night. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but one of the more interesting aspects about swimming season, which the casual sports fan probably doesn't know about shaving and tapering and all that. Can you kind of explain the structure of how the year works, and talk about how you coach an athlete early in the season versus how it might be different later in the season, gearing up towards conference championships, and even maybe just each program might be programmed for each individual, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why having a coaching staff is so important. Coaching with 60 kids would be tough with 2 people because we have to train distance, we have to train mid-distance, and we have to train sprinters. And earlier in the season, we work more on conditioning and technique and an endurance. A lot of cross-training. We run, we do dry land, we lift with Brendan. We actually do a little boxing. We don't hit each other. We have bags in the back. And then training camp comes, which is every swimmer's favorite time of year, which is just about 40 days of grind, where we want to break them down, where it's actually hard for them to walk. Because now the real favorite part comes to taper, and that's when we shave. It's an odd thing to talk about on camera in front of a lot of people, but the women stop shaving their legs. They do it themselves now around November, I think. And we shave down, and the men will dry shave to get a little bit of dead skin off their, and it just makes them feel for the water better when they dive in. There's a lot of moving pieces, and everybody's different. Mitchell Huxell did not have to train like Ryan Brommer does, or Michaela Page doesn't have to train like Michaela Poppin does. So there's a lot of planning and a lot of things that go into having a good season.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Over my years of working with you and your team and just being around the pool, I've learned weird things and strange things, and some of them feel like psychological games, but if it helps you swim fast, then by all means, go for it.
Yeah, it's a monotonous sport. I mean, you're in the water with your head down, you can't talk, and you're going back and forth for hours of the day. That's why they're so loud when they get out, because they can breathe. So, if you're not having fun, you're not going to swim fast. If you're not having fun, you're not going to dive well. So we try to do that the best we can with that.
Yeah, that's great. The next question I have for you, going back to the top of COVID-19 and the pandemic and the quarantine, what's been the biggest challenge for you when it comes to recruiting prospective student athletes, especially since you're not able to get off campus or host recruiting visits like you would normally like to? How has that process changed for you and your staff?
Zoom. Everything is Zoom. I don't know. I mean, we're doing a lot of calls. It's a little tricky because, if the NCAA is going to lift or make the quiet period in August, the schools that are open are going to have an advantage because they're going to be able to bring people in, and we're not going to be. But I know Karen at Langston is making a recruiting video for the coaches that we'll be able to, or her staff is, to be able to send to the recruits so we could do some virtual things. It's how it is. It's like with my team. If we start complaining about something, we're not going to succeed in the manner that we want to. So we're just going to recruit on this computer until we're told we can bring people in, and then we'll do so. I'm not going to let it affect us.
That's great. And with that being said, I know you already do have several exciting signees who are already on board for this next fall. How would you assess your 2020 recruiting class, and what can fans expect for their immediate impact?
We have a really good bunch of divers coming in, which after graduating Carly and Melissa, who is my current diving coach, we had a little no in the diving there. So I'm excited about having a couple freshman divers. Again, we do have probably the fastest female swimmer in our history coming in who signed out of high school. The unfortunate problem is she's from Croatia, so we don't know if she's going to get here in time. But we'll get her here eventually, whether it be September or January. And she's going to be great for relays. And she's certainly going to be great for Autumn and Michaela to chase. It's going to be fun.
That sounds great. It sounds like bringing in high talent is going to give the rest of your team something to chase after and make everybody better. So that's an exciting time. I did notice we got one more good question in the chat here. So I'd like to go back to the viewers, but this question says, how did you get involved in swimming, and how did you develop your passion around the sport?
After I graduated college, I moved home with my parents, and I realized that was a bad idea. So there was a local Division III school in New Jersey that was looking for an assistant coach. And I took it and realized I loved it. And I really took it just to get out of the house. And then I decided to go to grad school, and I went to East Carolina University to get my graduate degree, and then jumped right over to University of North Carolina as an assistant. And then I've been at UNLV. You started out because you love the sport. And then when you're young and you're doing this, you love the fact that you're beating them up in the water and you're winning, and the older you get and the longer you do this, it's really more of the satisfaction of, don't get me wrong, I want to win, but I like getting to know these kids. I've been texting with a lot of them this week, giving advice on where to live or what to do. That becomes the joy of this job.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't recognize that a coach is not just a drill sergeant who makes you faster or stronger, but a coach is a mentor.
Yeah, I have more meetings about non-swimming stuff than I do about swimming stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I'm sure all of your student athletes, past and present, are grateful for all of the advice you've given them. So, Coach, the last question that I have for you tonight, we would be obviously remiss without mentioning your departing senior class. I've heard you speaking proudly about all the things that they've accomplished, both individually and advancing the program during their time at CCB. So what will you miss most about that group of seniors?
We had a unique, on our women's side, we had 5 seniors that really were strong this year. And certainly, JC Haynes, as most of the athletic department knows because she works with us a little bit, she's 100% the reason that we continued our momentum after Michaela and Paula graduated. And Maddie Cosgrove, I would put in the same category. And Maddie just had a fantastic senior year. But all of them, Elisa, Leah, Alyssa Madero, they all really helped shape this women's program for sure. The men, we had a short class. I'm trying to convince Richie Campbell to continue swimming, to try to make his trial cut. We'll see if we can get him to do that. But that was part of the roughness. We sit here and talk about how well Autumn and Michaela and Chris and Ryan Breimer did, but having to see the seniors whack be a little hampered was rough. And then JC and Maddie and Richie came to Cleveland with us to have their final big hurrah, and COVID hit. So it's heartbreaking, but I'm just glad I had some time to hang out with them. They always make me laugh. They always make me smile. Well, maybe not always, but I'll stick with 90% of the time. 90%,
that's still an A, so I think that's pretty good.
Same about me, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%, I'm sure. And we have a little bit more time, and I skipped over one of the questions I really did want to get to. We talked about your seniors who are going out from this year, but I know that you've already selected your captains for next season. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit, how do you select, what's the process for selecting those captains? And can you tell us a little bit about the people you selected and what leadership qualities set them apart?
It's different every couple of years. It depends on where you see your team coming from and going. And some years you can have votes for the team to vote. Some years that might not be a good idea, so the coaches choose. I'm not even sure how it's happened in the last couple of years, really. I mean, Chris Rosick and Alex Dragon, the men's captains, live together. They're a close, tight group. That whole senior class is a group. I mean, you can say Chris and Alex are the captains, but I mean, Adam Estrella and Noah Hickman and Ryan Breimer and Julio. I mean, that senior class, if they stick together, we're gonna form a lot of leaders coming out of here on the men's side. You know, and Alex Nealon and Sydney Garvey for the women, they're in my office all the time, trying to make change and having ideas and things they could do to make the team tighter or community service. And, you know, if I see two leaders like that coming in my office every day, we're certainly going to reward them with the title, you know. And we do a good job at this program where I don't necessarily just go to those four people. Mia Bailey is going to be a great leader. Autumn Diarcy is going to be a great leader. I mean, they have the captain title to make sure what's going on outside of this pool is done correctly and smart. But when it comes on the pool deck, we have more than just four leaders, for sure.
It sounds like that group of people who you mentioned is a big group, and it sounds like they made your job easy in making that decision.
Yeah, they make my job easy in a lot of situations and make it hard in a whole lot more.
Well, I guess that's probably what keeps you coming back as a coach. It keeps things interesting.
Yes.
All right, Chris. Well, that's all the time we have. We want to thank you so much for being here with us and answering our questions tonight.
Great. I thank everyone for coming, and hopefully we'll see everybody soon. Stay safe.
And we'd once again like to thank our generous sponsors of tonight's Coaches Takeout Talk, Primetime Barbecue. Local businesses like Primetime are so important to our community and our economy, so make sure you keep on supporting them. We also have another exciting opportunity for the Bakersfield community to help out local businesses and the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund this Saturday, June 27th. CUSB Athletics is hosting the 5th annual Pints for Scholarships event with the help of Temblor Brewing Company. Temblor will be donating 50% of its beer sales from noon to midnight on Saturday, so please head over there and contribute to the cause. It's our hope that these Q&A discussions show the direct impact Roadrunner Scholarship Fund have on CUSB athletic teams. It's also our hope that the Q&A discussions motivate you into considering donating to the Roadrunner Scholarship Fund. Your investment into our student athletes is greatly appreciated. For more information, please visit gorunners.com/give. We'll be back next Tuesday, not a Thursday, but Tuesday, June 30th, for our final Coaches Takeout Talk featuring head wrestling coach Manny Rivera. Have a great night, everyone.